Hey, everybody, just real quick, I want to say that I'm out of town and I'm editing this podcast. And guess what? Huge news dropped after we recorded the podcast. The price of the Steam Deck is probably going up. I guarantee we're going to talk about it next week when we get back together and talk about video game news. But for now, we still have a really good show for you. So let's jump to it.
Maybe Sony is making this move towards PC because
I played, I think, around 10 demos altogether, and this was number one, easy.
This is something we've been talking about recently, right? Which is that, like, it does seem like Sony's pulling back.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. I am your host, Bill Fairchild, and we have a ton of video game news to talk about, but not before I introduce the panel. We've got my very good friend, Russ, a.k.a. Retro Gamecore. How's it going, Russ?
Good, aka Rich, too. This is going to be the hardest episode for you because you just got the two of us, and you better not mess it up.
Listen, all you have to do, Bill, is just lean into it. Whatever you say, that's what you meant to say.
That's what I meant.
I'm just gonna answer anytime you say Rich or Russ.
No, don't do that. And the other guy that you heard on there is Russ. I'm just kidding. It's Rich. How's it going, Rich? AKA
well
Fan
done.
the Deck.
Well done. I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here. It's a little bit of a different recording day. I'm upset Carrie's not here because
me too.
Yeah, I was ready to trigger him today.
I mean, you guys have been going back and forth in the Discord like all day long, and I'm just like, I can't wait to can these guys not hold on to this stuff until I hit record? Because it was really good conversations that were happening. But we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, including we've been playing a bunch of demos for Steam Next Fest. We've got Valve is coming under fire. Wolverine has a release date, and Sony is changing some of the ways that they're doing things. We've got Resident Evil 9 reviews are in, and they're really good. And we have a bunch of other stuff. So let's jump in with our first topic today. And that's going to be Valve. Apparently, Valve is getting sued by New York State. New York State Attorney General is suing Valve for illegal gambling. Basically, they filed this lawsuit yesterday on the 25th. We're recording this on Thursday night in Manhattan, alleging that Counter-Strike 2, Team Fortress 2, Dota 2, just a lot of twos, no threes, loot boxes constitute quintessential gambling, which is prohibited under New York's Constitution and penal law. The lawsuit claims that Valve has made billions of dollars by letting children and adults alike illegally gamble for rare virtual items without significant monetary value, with significant monetary value. For example, I guess there was a Counter-Strike skin that sold for $1 million, which is, I never saw that, but that's bananas to me. But basically, because you have loot boxes, and then Valve doesn't allow you to sell stuff, but they don't stop you from selling stuff through third-party websites, it seems like there's some gambling going on. And so I have two questions for you guys. The first question is, do you consider what Valve does to be gambling? And whether you do or not, do you think that Valve should change something? So, Rich, I'm going to start with you. The first question, do you think that the loot boxes that Valve has in their games with the ability to sell through third-party websites, because Valve has that Steam API, whatever Steam API it's called, do you consider that to be gambling?
Can you not also, can you not also sell on Steam Marketplace when you get like a skin, or can you only sell the key? Is that all?
So you can't get cash. You know what I mean?
Can you get like credit? Like, what can you get?
I believe that you can get credit, but then it's like, I think it's like points or something. I can't remember because I don't do this stuff. I never. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you can. So, like, for example, you can trade for keys, and keys do on third-party sites. Keys do have like a clear value, right? So, like, keys are essentially like a currency on the Steam marketplace. And so there is some obfuscation similar to like how pachinko machines have obfuscation. But to cash out essentially is pretty easy. Whether or not it's gambling, like that's certainly up to the courts to decide. It's almost not a matter of opinion, although like courts kind of come down to some like, decision that is some sort of an opinion. But my point is like, that's something for the lawyers to make their cases. I think when I looked at the research for this, there are let me see if I can find them, 3 things that New York and New Jersey, use in these sort of rulings to determine whether or not something is considered gambling. Mm-hmm. One of them is considerations, meaning did people pay money for the object, or in this case, not the object, but the chance at an object, right? And so that's the second criteria is chance. Or do you have kind of a known quantity of what you're going to get, or is it more of a chance that you'll get something versus something else? So obviously chance is associated here, and then prize, like how valuable is what you get. And for like Steam Marketplace, these, you mentioned $1 million, right? Even if we don't go that high, there is quite an appreciable range of things that you get. Likewise, when a lot of people have brought up trading cards, and trading cards trading cards have been sued before, trading card companies like Upper Deck, Fleer, even Pokemon. From my research, a lot of those cases were dismissed, but interestingly, the judges said in their like dismissal said that these constituted these elements of gambling, these 3 elements of gambling. Each case is different, but in the few cases that I looked at least a couple of them specifically said that, even though those cases were dismissed. So I found that interesting. So I think that, this is something that Valve has had to deal with throughout the world. And I think rightfully so. I think it deserves scrutiny, even if, it ultimately does get dismissed.
Russ, where do you think, when you look at the idea that you can get these loot boxes, and then you can maybe get something really valuable out of a loot box, or maybe get something that, isn't worth anything, do you consider that to be gambling?
I was going to bring up Pokemon, and Rich already beat me to it, but like that's like what I was thinking about. Like, it's the scarcity model. It's like having this thing that's already created with this game of chance, because that's what it is. And not only that, there's another layer to Pokemon, right? Because people are flipping them too, right? Where they're grabbing them retail, selling them for more. They're making their profit, and then again, that person is paying for it. So there's a whole industry involved in that stuff. I think it is gambling because of the way that it's a game of chance. And then also it just feeds that like kind of the same like ability to potentially be addictive as it does with actual gaming. And so for me, that's the danger of it. I don't think it needs to be regulated. Like that's one of those things that's like, did they regulate Beanie Babies? Like that was also like what I would consider to be almost gambling at some point. That scarcity model, again, people are trying to get these things for the potential value. Comic books, like it's always been around. I mean, how many of us bought all those black bag Death of Superman comics back in 1992? Like I had so many of those. I'm like, here we go, I'm gonna use this forever. And so I don't know, like I do think it is constituting gambling, but I don't think I think I'm with Rich where I want it to be scrutinized, but I also don't think that it needs to be regulated, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, the way I land on this is I agree with you, Russ, that it is gambling. And the thing, like you guys bring up the trading cards, but it's not just trading cards. It's like you go into any store, any friggin' store at checkout, like when you're at the checkout of a store, they have like blind boxes, right, that are at eye level for kids. They're aimed at kids, and it's like these boxes where you can buy like this thing, and it's got it like it shows like 8 or 9 different things that could be in the box, And like the kids are hoping, oh, I really hope it's this thing. But then, oh no, I got another one of these things that I already have 12 of. And I think I disagree with you, Russ. I do think it needs to be regulated, but I don't think it just needs to be Valve that gets regulated on this, because tons of games do loot boxes. And like when I look at a game like, what's the basketball franchise?
NBA 2K.
Thank you. Yeah, NBA 2K. That has not like it has those packs that you pay money to open, and you know that's how you build your team for like the My Team or whatever it's called, or at least that's how it used to be. I don't know if it still is because I don't play those games. But like I think like that game should automatically be rated M for mature because of the loot boxes. In my opinion, any game that has loot boxes should be rated M for mature, so that when parents buy it, they're aware of what's in it. Because a lot of, you look at a parent walking into a store, although how often does that happen anymore? They walk into a store and they're like, oh, I'm going to get the new basketball game for my kid. Well, it's basketball. I mean, it can't be, it's a sport. It's not bad. But then at the same time, in real life, when you watch a basketball game, they constantly have like DraftKings ads all the time, like all this stuff. It's like gambling is taking over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thinking of a few things you guys mentioned. So the scarcity is important, right? But I do think, just going back to those three things, consideration, chance, and prize, right? Like when we think about a comic that's gotten really expensive, there's no like chance associated there. If you're paying $2,000 for a rare comic, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. Obviously, you know what you're getting yourself into to some degree with the loot boxes. But one of the things that like, Valve could do is be more transparent, or not just Valve, like you said, other companies can be more transparent about the drop rates for different, things, right? And so, but either way, these are drop rates. So there's a chance associated where you might get X, you might get Y, you might get Z. As far as like not just Valve, I don't imagine this is just Valve, right? Like this is a lawsuit that's brought to Valve specifically, but all of those things, what always happens is that whether it Valve loses or wins, this becomes precedent for the next case, right? So if Valve were to lose, then the New York Attorney General has even more grounds now to come after, NBA 2K or to come after Microsoft in terms of like Activision Blizzard games. And then the ratings board stuff, I think that's important too. So there was a change to ESRB where they added a component that says like something about loot boxes. I don't remember if that changes your rating from a T to an M or everybody to a T. I don't remember. But that does exist. The thing is that came about in 2018, so it's possible that this came about after some of these games were rated, like Counter-Strike. Also, you mentioned walking in a store. These games are mostly digital, or pretty much all digital at this point, right? So they have less of a requirement to be rated. So I think Dota 2 might not be rated. I'd have to be fact checked on that.
A lot of PC games are not rated.
Yeah, but you would think the Valve games would just be rated, right? But yeah, I think Dota 2 might not be rated. That said, like in terms of regulation, here's the thing: it's illegal. Gambling is illegal in New York, right? Or at least New York City.
As long as you're not in the unless you're in like a casino, like they have casinos in New York, but they're only in certain places.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is if it is found to be gambling and gambling is against the law, right? Like that's where regulation seems to make sense to me. If it's already a law, it's already a rule that's standing. Now the question is whether or not they are breaking that specific law.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in the past, what I've seen is when companies run up against something like this, I've seen it like in other countries as well. usually what they'll have to do, they'll have to pay a fine. Like in the past, Genshin Impact was sued for $20 million for misleading loot box odds. But in the past, I've seen companies say, okay, well, then we won't do loot boxes the way that we do them now. We'll show the odds and make them a little less flashy so they don't look so much like, a roulette wheel or whatever. And usually that's enough to get these companies to back off. And I think or these lawsuits to back off, or these regulators to back away. And I think that that's a good thing. I just also wish that it would force them to, if you're going to have gambling in your game, you got to have age rating. And that's for any game.
Another question I think that kind of goes into this is like, my answer to this question would be like, so should they exist? Like, I hate that these things are there in the first place, right? Because it's a predatory marketing is the way I kind of look at it, right? Like the fact that they're even there in the first place, like it just bothers me, and I'm able to kind of keep myself away from it. But it still feeds into that weird like addiction thing that we have just as human beings, like this resource scarcity thing that we have from like the before times, and that we like got to hoard everything that we can find, And so my example of this is, so I don't know if you guys ever seen anything like this. So this is called a vinylmation. Have you ever heard of this? So these are like the first original loot boxes from like late 20s, so like 2000s, so like 2009, 2010 or so. So they are basically, they were made by Disney, and so they have like a Mickey Mouse shape. You can see like the Mickey Mouse ears to them, but then different series. This is the Star Wars one, obviously, so it's Leia from Return of the Jedi. And you would get one of these, and it would be an odd of, one of these is going to be of the 12 or whatever in the series. And then there's what they call a chaser, which would be like much rarer. And I don't think they ever put the odds on the boxes. They did that later with other blind boxes, My family got we were kind of addicted, like we go to Disney World, be like, we live in Florida at the time, right? So it was just like, hop over there and then just grab something. And then it was like $12 each or whatever. And yeah, we've got like dozens of those things. I'm hesitant to say hundreds, but there's a lot, and it was just like a thing we did for months. And I had to stop because I was like, this is like making me like, I'm staying awake at night hoping that I get one of these things. Like that's a bad position to be in, and I think it's just a natural human thing. And so I've always been very anti all of this stuff afterwards. And so my question for you guys is like, is there any value to this other than the entertainment factor of like, like the thrill of the chase? Like, do you find any value in these things that Valve is actually offering?
I'm pretty hard, not necessarily just Valve. I'm pretty hard against gambling, right? So what has happened a lot in the last few years, for example, is that like sports gambling has gotten deregulated. And so you're seeing a lot more sports gambling ads. And when I see that, like, I just cringe. It's like, it feels off to me. It's like if we went back to having Marlboro ads and, just uncritically, like cigarettes are awesome, right? And that's how I see that. So I'm another kind of relevant topic too are prediction markets are like this new thing, but prediction markets are essentially just gambling, right? Except they've found a loophole such that like they're basically not under the same regulation, at least not yet, that gambling markets are under. And so like, yeah, I'm pretty much against all of that stuff. I understand that some people are into it. They enjoy it. I have friends that are into it. So, whatever, but that's my personal stance.
Yeah, makes sense.
The way I look at it is, okay, so how do I deal with it? When I play games, I don't care what my character looks like. So I don't chase skins or anything like that. The only time I've ever like bought skins in a game was like when I played Guild Wars 2, which I was putting like ridiculous amounts of time into, and I wasn't paying anything. I was playing all the time, and it was never costing me anything. And I felt like I'm enjoying this game enough that I don't mind throwing some money at them. But it was always to buy a specific thing. It was never to buy a loot box. I'm very anti loot box in games. Overwatch was a big loot box thing, or a loot box system, and they ended up changing it to get rid of that, although I don't know if they ended up changing it back later. And I believe the reason that they changed it was because somebody somewhere had come after them. And here's my next question, and it's going to be a question that it's probably already posted in chat by the time I say this, or in the comments down below, is people are going to say, well, parents just need to watch their kids more. I don't disagree with that, but that doesn't mean that, like, there are parents who don't play video games that don't understand the systems. And maybe they're like, if I feel like when you're a gamer and you see all of these systems, you kind of get all of that stuff. And if you are not a gamer, like, all of this shit on the screen just looks like, yeah, there's things happening on the screen. I don't understand any of it. And they don't know enough about it to understand it. And asking them to be a gamer on top of being a parent and having a job and having their own hobbies, sometimes that makes it really hard for people to grasp what is happening on the screen, if that makes sense. And some people might say that's a cop-out. I don't think it is. Do you guys think that people should just say, you know what, it's up to the parents. It's not up to the regulators to stop kids from gambling in these games? Rich?
Okay. Which Rich?
Rich? Both
Rich?
Riches.
Oh, Russ, why don't you go first, actually?
Okay. So, yes, theoretically, I like the idea of just like, yes, let society figure it out where we can shun the thing that doesn't work, right? You know, and I'm like the worst. And after my whole Vinylmation stint, 15 years ago, like, I'm pretty crazy about it. Like, I got mad at Astrobot when you, like, you have your gold coins and then you got to use them to get the gotchas, to get all the other things. And sometimes it would just be like an empty soda can. And I get so mad. And I'd be like, why did I just pay money for the soda can, right? That felt like a gambling thing,
He like so crushes it, right? Like he like crushes it and throws it away.
It is in-game money. That is work. That is sweat that I put into that game that I then had to waste on an empty soda can. So yes, it's not real money though. So I feel like, yes, theoretically, like I can control my family, so why can't anybody else? You know what I mean? Not control, but you know what I mean? Like, I can manage and take care of it. But it's addicting. It's naturally addicting to people. And that makes people do things that they wouldn't normally do if they weren't in the throes of addiction. And so I don't like the idea of leaving that up to choice when it's something that the cards are already stacked against our, like, the way our brains are hardwired. And so I do think that, yes, there should be some sort of oversight, being it a warning or whatever, but I just don't like additional regulation in a way, in the sense of like the amount of effort and work it would be to shun something worries me a little bit, just because that seems like a waste of resources. But I don't know. I guess I'm split on it. But I do think that it shouldn't just be left to the parents. There has to be some sort of solution. I think a warning is generally enough, but you never know.
Like if they're doing the loot box thing, just put it a giant thing on the screen. This is gambling, so the parent can look over and be like, what the hell is happening over here?
Your child is gambling. You could send them an email. Yeah, I don't know what it would be, I would want to say it's just a yellow sticker, like put that sticker like you did on a pack of cigarettes,
Yeah.
But everything's so digital now that I don't know if that could really work.
True.
Right. I do think, man, a lot of things to say on this topic. So first of all, yeah, parents have an absolute responsibility, even with like, or especially with, digital purchases, to like understand what their child is playing. One thing I'll say before I go into this a little bit deeper is I would like more games to have better kind of parental controls, right? More games and more systems to have better parental controls. So like I use all of them, right? Like I use Microsoft Windows parental control because my son loves playing games on Windows. I use the console parental controls, and they're all helpful, but I think they can be a lot better too. And so I'd like to see that. What I'll say though, for this specific case, is I think it was a mistake for the New York Attorney General to even mention children in this, right? Because these are not, at least in the case of Counter-Strike 2, this is not a children's game. In the case of Team Fortress 2 and Dota 2, those ratings are a little more relaxed. But also, the question isn't whether or not, in this case, isn't whether or not gambling is bad for children. It's it's already known that gambling is illegal. The question is whether or not Valve, did what they're claiming is illegal, right? So that actually has nothing to do with children. Moreover, they kind of brought in like this question of violence once again, right? So like the violence can of worms. And so they opened that back up. And I think given that, like that really hurt, I think, their press release for this case and made it so that people are looking at this more negatively. I think it was a mistake for them to even mention kids. That doesn't mean that there should be zero consideration for kids. When we're talking about gambling, casinos can't let kids in. As you guys mentioned, early exposure to addiction is even worse than later on, just because of how your brain is developing. So all of that needs to be taken into consideration. I just don't think it really had a place in this press release that the New York Attorney General kind of made.
I think it makes it an easy, I don't want to use the word scapegoat, but that's like, I can't think of the word that I'm trying. It makes it an easier target.
Yeah,
when they,
exactly.
as soon as they mention kids, and then bringing up the violence. Well, I think that another problem is that not every PC game is rated. And I know that there's thousands of PC games that come out like every day or whatever, and that's probably an impossibility, but there should be something that, like, Valve should put something in that says, hey, what do you think that your game would be rated? Be honest, or we're going to kick you off the store. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It like, I think there are regions where games that are not rated are not available on Steam. I want to say Germany.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I'd have to check that, but I want to say there's at least one region where games that are not rated are not allowed on Steam. And so, we could do the same thing here. I don't, again, I do think there's a responsibility on the parent, especially for game. Like, I'm not gonna, if I see a game that has 10 players on it, that have played this game or have 10 reviews on it and has no rating, I'm not just going to buy that for my kid, sight unseen, right?
Right.
My child recently wanted to play a game called Wobbly Life, and I wasn't sure about that game because it kind of looked like GTA, but it turns out it's nothing. I mean, like, it has that sandbox feel, but it's otherwise nothing like GTA, and it's actually a really adorable game. But I had to see it with my own eyes, right, and see what was being played before I kind of give that opportunity to my child. So there is a responsibility there. I do think if we want kind of a store force them to have ratings, then that's fine. I think one of the things I ultimately come to, and I'll close on this, is that like we have power, right? Like we saw with Stop Killing Games that we have power, and that doesn't mean that loot boxes have to go away. But if we become collective about like what we think should happen, whether that is ratings or removing the slot machine animation or better transparency or better drop rates or parental controls that work. If we are clear, specific, and collective about what we want, we can make change. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right. Let's move on to our next story, and let us know what you actually, before we do, let us know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think it's gambling? And do you think Valve should change anything? Do you think Valve's in trouble or not? Let us know what you guys think. And we're going to move on to our next topic. And it's kind of a combination of two things. Wolverine now has its release date. It's coming out on September 15th. I got to put this in front of me. September 15th this year. They announced it on a Blue Sky post on the 24th, and they said, go and wishlist the game now. This is the latest from Insomniac, the same people that made Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. I mean, they announced Wolverine. How long ago did they announce it? I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago that they announced Wolverine. So people have been waiting for this for a really long time. And then we finally saw gameplay. I think it was at Summer Games Fest last year, or maybe it was at the Game Awards. I can't remember which one. But
your memory seems to be rocking today.
Is it? Okay.
I think so. Yeah. So Wolverine, we learned about it apparently September 2021. Yeah, okay. I mean. So, yep.
Yeah, so, and then we finally saw gameplay, and we were like, holy cow, this looks really like they went over the top with this. And, you know, some people are happy about that. Some people are not happy about that. I think it looks really good. It's definitely something that I am interested in, although you guys were calling it like Batman in a Batman skin.
I was only cheekily referring to what Carrie was saying. I couldn't tell if Russ was being sincere or just doing the same thing.
Yeah, because I said, oh, I can't wait to play the next Batman skin game where I'm surrounded by a bunch of enemies and press the X button.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't that what you do in Spider-Man? And you like Spider-Man?
Oh, well, I theoretically like Spider-Man. Ask me about my game progress in Spider-Man. Even though I own Spider-Man,
okay.
Miles Morales, and 2, I can't get through those games, man. I'm like at 26% complete, I think.
I guess I just remember him talking about them a lot. So maybe it's like, you know, I ask, hey, Russ, what you been playing? He's like, I played Spider-Man for 5 minutes this week, but
Exactly.
I couldn't stick it out. So okay,
I tried so
enough.
many times. Yeah.
I would love more Arkham skin games, at least if they're this quality, right? I really enjoy Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Miles Morales. I haven't finished 2 yet, but I did finish the first 2, so I'm looking forward to this.
I really need to buy those games. Like I played a little bit of the first one because my son owned it, and I played a little bit of it, but I didn't stick with it because it wasn't mine. And so I was like, I just give it back to him. Anyway, so Wolverine's coming out. Number one, are you excited for this game? I'm going to say I am very excited for this game with a huge asterisk, which I will talk about in a minute. Rich, are you excited for Wolverine?
Yeah, I'm very excited. First of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I'm gonna be bad news, Bill. If I didn't mention this news came 5 days removed from the Blue Point news, like that.
I know.
Like, clearly they were just doing the news cycle sandwich or whatever. Like we did the bad news, let's immediately do some good news. So yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that, but I am excited. We've talked before about Insomniac holding Sony on their back like Atlas, and they have, like, we mentioned those games, but they had Spider-Man released in 2018, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart released in 2021. Miles Morales was the year before that, 2020, Spider-Man 2 in 2023, and Wolverine now in 2026. So they have been firing on all cylinders. And each of those games were great. Wolverine's looking awesome. I expect to pick it up. Yeah.
Russ, are you the real Russ? Are you excited for Wolverine?
You know, I haven't really watched any showcase or gameplay or anything. I don't even know if they have any, so I don't actually know anything, but it'll really depend on how the game plays. If it's another open world game, then I probably would put it in the stack behind Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2, and then this one. Like those, I have to get through those other ones before I buy Wolverine. If it is more linear and more just kind of story driven, like Ratchet and Clank, then I will pick it up. Like, no problem. Like, I love those games where it's like you're on a mission, you're just going to progress the story more, and you're not just swinging in between buildings to go and stop the next series of generic bad guys that you just stopped earlier. Like that's kind of where I am. You know, it's like if it's a story that I'm following, if it feels more like an Uncharted game, it feels more like an actual single player experience like that and not open world, I'm for it.
Okay, well, here's the next part, because we've been talking on this podcast a lot about Sony's strategy when it comes to PC. I think it was, I don't know, like last year, we started to see a lot, maybe it was the year before, I can't remember, but we started to see a lot more of Sony properties showing up on Steam and on PC. And a lot of us, there's 4 people on the podcast. Often we would say, you know, it looks like maybe Sony is making this move towards PC because they've sold their games to everybody who's going to buy them otherwise. The only way to get more people to buy their games is to start selling those games in other places. But then shortly after, and I don't know if it's necessarily related, but shortly after Microsoft announced that their next Xbox was going to be a PC, essentially, it felt like Sony kind of turned around and said, you know what, maybe we shouldn't do that. And if that's the case, I completely understand why that they would do that. There's also the idea that the PC ports of the games, they aren't selling super well. So, for example, the Spider-Man 2 PC port only had 28,000 peak Steam players, which is a big drop down from Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man, 66,000. And maybe they looked at that and they said, you know what, the amount of money that it's costing us to port these games to PC means that it's not worth it. So the reason I bring this up is because there was Jason Schreier, who works at Bloomberg. He was on the Triple Click podcast, and he said, and he gets lots. Go ahead.
I should add that is his podcast as well. So he.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
I just thought he was a guest on that one. Okay. So he was doing his podcast, and he said, you know what? He has a lot of inside information a lot of the time. And he said he felt like they were pulling back from bringing single player titles to PC. And he said, I wouldn't be surprised if Wolverine never came to PC. And then later on in a Resetera post, he said, this is not speculation, which is very interesting. What's up, Rich? You have a concerned look on your face. Am I getting everything wrong?
I had forgotten that he said that about Wolverine specifically. I wouldn't be surprised if it never came to PC. So I was listening to this podcast actually this morning, and I mentioned it in the group chat. Because when you hear him talk about it here, he sounds speculative. Because it's Jason Schreier, I still took it with some amounts of gravitas, which is why I posted it in the group chat. Because this is something we've been talking about recently, right? Which is that it does seem like Sony's pulling back. And just today, it wasn't just Jason Schreier, but also Nate the Hate and John Linneman that also mentioned something similar. So now it's kind of becoming like where there's smoke, right? But that said, again, I did take it as speculative, and he didn't really say too much. And I like I said, I did forget that he said I wouldn't be surprised if it never came to PC. But then, like you clarified later on in the day, he did post on Resetera and say basically this isn't speculation. He just wasn't ready to publish a story, and that he'll be basically more soon, right? So I think, where is it? It says, I mean, it's not speculation, but sometimes topics come up on the show before I'm quite ready to publish a story about them. More to come soon. Thanks for listening to Triple Click. This week's episode was a lot of fun. It was a really good episode, by the way. There does seem to be smoke here. One more thing I'll say before, because I want to hear what Russ has to say. One more thing I'll say on this is, there's a chance, right, that even if Sony is backing off, which I do believe they are, that Wolverine has different terms, right? Because this is a Marvel game, it's a licensed game,
right?
And there is reason to believe that they have different terms. There's, a leak out there, if you remember that leak, where some of the details about Marvel licensed games were leaked. I'm not going to refer to that. I don't think that there's anything specific enough in there anyway. But if you have seen it, that may give you reason to believe that the terms that Marvel and Sony have for PC games may be different than just what Sony's going to do.
What do you think, Russ?
So when I saw the announcement come out, and it was on Blue Sky or Twitter, and it was like, who's ready for September 15th, 2026? Wish list the game now, and there's a link. So I clicked on it, I'm like, all right, I'm going to add to my Steam wish list. And it took me to the PlayStation store. I'm like, dang it, they got me. I was like, I thought that, I thought I was going to put it on my Steam wish list, and then I kind of got put back to reality. And honestly, I often don't like it when Jason Schreier gives news because it's never good. And it's often right. You know what I mean?
Bad news, Jason.
And so you're right. It has some gravitas to it, and so I'm a little worried. I think it is a bad move. I'm kind of thinking of it like, you ever open up a bottle of wine and then you try to put that cork back in? It's really hard, and I feel like this is what they're doing now. That they're not going to get PC gamers who now have found the value in Sony games available on Steam and how that adds to their entire collection to to transfer over from PC gaming over to Sony or to buy a PS5 so they can play these games. I feel like they're just creating an ecosystem where nobody's going to move over to play them on PS5, and we're going to wait it out. And I don't know, maybe they'll announce they'll never release it, but Sony doesn't seem to be the type of brand that will say, hey, by the way, we're not doing PC anymore. They're just going to not do it. And so I just think it's just a rough move, all things considered. Selfishly, I just want it to come to Steam because that's where I've been consolidating all these games. I still haven't bought Ghost of Yotei, and things like that. Death Stranding 2, like coming to Steam, kind of leads me to think one way, and I was hoping that would just be, more par for the course. But yeah, I don't know. I'm mixed about it. Personally, I want it to go to PC, but I can see why, if they're trying to separate themselves from Xbox, that this might be the move they do.
Yeah. I do have the very unpopular opinion that I think it's better for Sony to not to adopt an unpredictable strategy around PC ports, right? And which is what they have done at this point. Basically, like we said, we were getting ready for everything to kind of be like, a year after, maybe we're going to get closer to day and date. And now kind of everything's out the window. And I think this benefits them. On that same podcast, earlier in that podcast, because the podcast is about Xbox primarily, Jason Schreier said, really, the death knell for Xbox was when they started releasing their games to PC, which I believe was 2016 or so. It made it unnecessary for those with a gaming PC to buy an Xbox at all, which kind of is the beginning of the end for them. And I tend to agree, right? Like the more time went on, there was less reason to buy Xbox hardware, and that continues to be true. And I think that Xbox hardware was sort of a load-bearing wall for Xbox, or at least the Xbox brand as we know it. And I think that's even more true for the Sony PlayStation brand. And so giving people a reason to consider buying a PlayStation, I think benefits Sony and even Sony made games.
I think, okay, so there you said a couple things there that I want to disagree with. The second, I'm going to start with the second thing because it's the most recent, where he said the death knell of Xbox was when they started shipping games on PC. I think that feels like a post hoc ergo propter hoc, where, after, therefore, because of, you know what I mean? It's coincidence. Correlation does not equal causation. You know what I mean by that? Like, just because those things happen, like one thing happened after the other, doesn't mean the first thing was the cause of that. I think that those two things just happened concurrently. Microsoft had just lost the most important generation that they could have lost, and
I think that's such a the reason that talking point for Phil Spencer is so valuable to Phil Spencer is because it sort of alleviates him of any of the responsibility afterwards, right? Like Nintendo.
That's true.
Nintendo also did not carry over their Wii U to Switch library, or Wii/Wii U, and they also lost that generation. And then they came with the Switch, right? Like, I think that's a really convenient talking point for Phil Spencer because it bolsters his legacy. I don't think that, I don't think that it's like, oh, I couldn't do anything because I lost Xbox One, so I had to do something. Like, I think Phil Spencer had a lot more opportunity than he gives himself to recapture the Xbox audience.
And I definitely think that makes a lot of sense, but I also think that people who are playing on consoles tend to be more entrenched in the console choice that they've picked. People seldomly switch from Xbox over to PlayStation or PlayStation over to Xbox. They pick one and they kind of stick with it, especially because they've got their friends list and all of their friends are playing that they've been playing with or playing on this system. And then, so like, if you guys both have PlayStations and I have the opportunity to either buy an Xbox or buy a PlayStation, I'm probably going to get a PlayStation because I would like the opportunity to be able to play with you, or, set up like the chat and, do all of the things that you do together as a social experience on that system. So people switching between systems back and forth, I think that doesn't really happen a lot. And then the other part where you said about Nintendo's a completely different animal. Like, Nintendo people are going to buy Nintendo stuff no matter what Nintendo does every single time, I think, which is why I have 3 Switch 2s in my house, because I'm a Nintendo guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my position is that Xbox can do that too. Valve has accomplished that. Sony's accomplished that. Nintendo's accomplished that. Xbox said, we lost, we can't do it. You know what I mean? Like, they could have done that too. They could have engendered that relationship with their consumers, their fan base. Their fan base feels, what's the word I'm looking for? They feel betrayed, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And I don't think anybody would say that's the fan base's fault. It's clearly Microsoft's fault that the Xbox fan base feels betrayed. I think Xbox had a lot more power than they give themselves credit here.
I feel like, yes, they feel betrayed, but I think that betrayal started after the Xbox Series generation came out. And I don't think that you were going to get people switching from PlayStation to Xbox Series at that point. I'm sorry, Russ has his hand raised. So, Russ.
All good. So I just like to chime in here. Like, so I feel like that wasn't the death knell in particular for Xbox, just because if it had been played right, it would have been a huge thing. But it came down to the games, and it just wasn't. And there weren't enough compelling games on Xbox to drive people there. Because if there were compelling games on it, then the Xbox would be a very interesting product, because $299 for an Xbox Series S, and it can play all your games, and you don't have to mess around with settings, and it's a fraction of the price of a PC. Like, that all makes sense to me as a console gamer. You know, we'll talk about it when we talk about games we played, but I finished Halo Infinite this week, and I don't know what it was. Like, I was just like, let me just pop this disc in and play this game that I already own on Steam. And my save game's cross-compatible, so it's the same thing. But holy smokes, was it such a revelation for me just to pop it in, 60 frames per second, didn't even go into the settings, and just started playing the game, and it was awesome. And I was like, this is console experience. Like, I haven't had this in so long because of the PC gaming. So I think that there is still a benefit there, and there's still a huge audience for that kind of experience. But they just screwed it by the lack of games. You know, like PS4 generation, Xbox One generation, I can't think of a single Xbox exclusive, like what, Halo 5, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing there that really got me. But PS4, holy smokes, I can name off 10 games that were just monumental for me during that same era.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt that, like, the games can make a strategy, whether that strategy is sticking to console hardware or migrating to PC. And so at the end of the day, like, yes, having games would have bolstered either strategy. Then, yeah, they failed on that account, 100%.
Well, I think they failed on a lot of places, without a doubt. But, bringing things back to Sony, which is what we were originally talking about, the other thing that I feel like I disagree with you on, Rich, is you said you think it's a good thing for Sony to be unpredictable when it comes to how long they're going to, like, if a game is going to come to PC or not. And I do think that there's part of that is definitely true. But I think that there's a non-insignificant group of people, I'm probably doing a double negative here, that they would say, well, if they're not going to bring it, and Sony would just say, we're not bringing it to PC, they would run out and buy Wolverine and pre-order it right now. But if they don't say that it's never coming, then there's going to be people who are think, well, it might come, so I'm going to hold off. It's like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance, you know what I mean? There's a chance it's going to come. I'm going to hold off because I'm mostly a PC gamer, and I just have my PlayStation for PlayStation exclusives, and this seems like it might be a PlayStation exclusive, but it might not be a PlayStation exclusive. So I'm going to wait and hold out hope so that I can play it on PC with, the same thing that they did with, like, God of War. When they brought God of War over, they're like, widescreen, all these features, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, that's what the people want, but they're not sure if they're able to get it or not. So they're just not going to buy the game because they don't want to double dip. You know what I mean?
It's such a double-edged sword because they're like, oh, this game's a dud. No one's buying it. So why would we spend money to port it to PC? Right? Like, so it's like this self-defeating thing. And I want to be in this perfect place where I don't have to buy it on PlayStation, but I can buy it on PC. And even then, I don't want to wait till it's $40. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many factors involved with this. And yeah, I'm still holding out hope, that we'll get some of these games on PC, but I don't know. It's such a self-fulfilling prophecy if I don't buy it on PlayStation 2.
Yeah, Bill, I see your point in terms of like maybe more people would buy if they kind of just committed to not going exclusive. I think certainly some or committed to going exclusive. Excuse me. I think certainly there are the live service games that we know they not only have to have available on PC, but they are also going to consider having available on Xbox. Just have that audience be as large as possible. Then I mentioned third party IP licensed IP that they may have like terms that they have to negotiate. Not just Marvel, but we know MLB The Show is available on Xbox, right? So when it comes to licensed IP, there is that, and then there are third-party games published by Sony, like Stellar Blade, like Death Stranding 2. Those have different terms as well. So I think here's what I'll say. I think despite the release window not being fully transparent, like what their strategy is going to be with PC is not transparent. As a hypothetical PlayStation fan, am not nearly as confused by what PlayStation will offer and when they will offer it as I am by Xbox, right? And even though we know Xbox games come to PC, will come to PlayStation, what is in Xbox, we don't know that, right? And
you're not kidding.
and I think Sony has done a better job of putting their fan base at ease than Xbox has. And the fact that PC gamers sometimes get to enjoy ports is a bonus, not the full kind of, entree for them.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you excited for Wolverine? Do you plan on playing it on PlayStation? Or are you holding out hope that it comes to PC? Or maybe you're not interested in this game at all. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. And we're going to move on to our next topic, which is kind of about this same thing. PC ports. We just got the PC specs for Death Stranding 2, and it's really good news if you are somebody who wants to play on portable devices, because it looks like Nixies, which is the developer that is working on this port, it's got pretty reasonable specs. There was a story that we had on the show notes last week that we ended up not talking about, and about another game that had really reasonable specs, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was. Do you remember, Rich?
Was it Crimson Desert?
Yeah, it was Crimson Desert. Had really, really reasonable specs, which is awesome. So I'm not going to go through all of the specific specs, but basically it seems like this game is going to run pretty well on a lot of systems. And it even has like a built-in portable preset that is set up for handheld gaming devices like a Steam Deck or an Xbox Ally X or a Lenovo Legion Go, like those kind of things. And so my question for you guys, because I'm out on this game. I have zero interest in playing Death Stranding. Like I looked at the first one and I thought to myself, that looks pretty boring. And then I played Metal Gear Solid Double Snakes or whatever the I can't remember what
Twin
it is.
Snakes?
Snake Eater.
Delta,
Snake Eater.
yeah.
Delta, yeah, the Delta one. What's that one called?
Snake Eater Delta. Yeah.
Snake Eater. Yeah, I played the remake, and I was like, this game is not for me. And it's, it's fine if it's for you guys. If you guys enjoy that game, enjoy it. It just was not appealing to me. And so that's too like that's just, Kojima's just not my guy. Maybe it's because I didn't grow up playing his games. And, like there's something to be said for nostalgia. So it just doesn't appeal to me. But you guys, I know that you're fans of Metal Gear games. I don't know how you feel about Death Stranding. Russ. Actually, Russ. I'm just saying, it's really you. What do you think about Death Stranding 2 on PC? Is it something you want to pick up?
Oh, I'm absolutely going to pick it up. So it's one of those where I gambled and was like, okay, I'm not getting it on PlayStation. I'm going to wait and see if it comes out on PC.
Loot boxes.
Yeah. Well, I only played a couple hours of the original, and I was like, this is good. I was doing it for testing. Like, I sat down to just like, okay, see how it performs. I can't remember. This is years ago. And I just played it for hours, and I was like, holy smokes, like I'm really enjoying this. And then I just never got back to it. And now I've forgotten everything that happened. So I have to start over. And so I do plan on playing both of them at some point. It's one of those where I got to be in the mood. I'll get there at some point. But yeah, I'm going to get it. I'm interested in it. Definitely not the same Metal Gear kind of, feelings for me, just because it's a new IP and it is a little bit like it's work. What you're like loading up things on your back and then walking, like that's work,
right,
And
right.
so that element is there. And so it is a little bit of friction for me. But still, yeah, the story was compelling. It's just weird, and I like all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm going to play it.
I've also heard that 2 is a lot more approachable than the first one in that way. Like, it is still work, but maybe just, again, more approachable, more accessible. I haven't played much of 1. I just never got around to it. I am more excited about 2. I do want to play both at some point, but I'm not married to playing 1 before 2 at this point. Like if I feel kind of the urge to pick up 2, I'm just going to do it. The specs do look reasonable. Kind of similar to a story we talked about last week with like the Batman game. It does seem like we're converging back to 16 gigabytes, as Tech Dweeb would say. So yeah, it does seem like that is going to be relatively standard for a lot of games coming. Same thing, I think, with Crimson Desert. I think that was also 16 gigabytes. So yeah, I'm excited. I don't know yet whether this is like a day one, wait for a sale. I have no idea. I know Death Stranding sales came pretty often, so I guess I am likely to wait for a sale on this one.
Yeah, me too. It looks to me like I'll pay $40 for it. You know what I mean? And I think I probably paid the same for Death Stranding. I think I own Death Stranding on PS4 as well as PC. So it's like a double purchase that I made. But with Death Stranding 2, yeah, I took the gamble that it would come out on PC at some point.
I think one of my biggest gripes with Death Stranding and Death Stranding 2 is when you look at the trailer, not a clue what is happening. I don't know what the game is about. Like, you know what I mean? When I see other games,
Titanium Court. How dare you?
But Titanium Court, I really enjoyed. Like, I had a lot of fun with it, and I
have no idea what's going on in that game. Yeah, and honestly, that is actually. We'll talk about it later, but that's probably the only thing I like about Titanium Core is just this like weird, like what is happening? That stuff is fun. So, and that is intriguing to me about the Death Stranding games, and probably why I do like the Metal Gear Solid games. It's just like what is happening right now, and then sometimes it clicks, sometimes it doesn't.
I think that they are relying on the. I was going to say they're relying on the pedigree of the Hideo Kojima name. It's like, oh, have you seen the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie? Have you watched the new Coen Brothers movie? Right? You don't have to know what's going on, but you're like, all right, you've established enough trust. And Bill, fair enough for you. Like, you don't have that trust, and so like jumping into one of those movies might be a little bit harder for you. And I get it. I just watched There Will Be Blood last night for the very first time. It took me 20 years to watch that movie.
I still need to see that. Yeah,
it was good.
Man.
It was good, but man, I don't know why I put it like it's like. Too much effort to watch. Some of his movies are hard, right? Paul Thomas Anderson, where it's like Magnolia screwed me up, where I was like, okay, this is too much, And so ever since then, I've been very hesitant. But I finally sat down and watched it last night, and it felt that's like a Kojima gaming experience to me.
Okay,
I like
There Will Be Blood a lot.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
All right, I will.
Who knows what the heck's happening in that movie? You know what I mean? Like, what is this movie about? Oil? Like, I don't know. And like that's you just go into it with that trust, and that's kind of what I'm assuming a Kojima game requires.
Fair enough. Well, let us know if you guys are if you've already played it and you're happy with it, and or are you going to pick it up on PC? And what do you think about these specs? Do you think that they are more evidence that developers are like, okay, we gotta optimize better because people just aren't going to be able to play our games if we don't. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. I want to talk about Resident Evil. The reviews are in. These reviews are really, really good. Overwhelmingly positive. Everybody's calling it one of the best Resident Evil. Well, not everybody. Many are calling it one of the best Resident Evil games in years, successfully blending survival horror and action across dual protagonists. So if when you're playing as Grace Ashcroft, you don't have to be in first person, but you are by default, you are in first person mode, and it's playing more like Resident Evil 7. So it's like very, very horror. But then when you play as Leon Kennedy, you are in third person by default, and it's much more of an action game than a survival horror game. And a lot of people are really liking that flip-flop between the characters, where you'll go through a place as Grace and you'll be terrified of everything because you're so much weaker than Leon. But then a couple hours later, you go through that same location as Leon, and everything that was hunting Grace that she's running from, you are just, chainsawing apart and, drop kicking people or zombies as you're going through. It all sounds really good. I went through Metacritic and I found like a bunch of like pull quotes from different places. Games Radar says, I'm going to start with the positive ones, so the people who really like the game. Games Radar says that it's a soaring piece of survival horror theater. PC Gamer says it feels like playing a highlight reel of the best moments in the series. The Sixth Axis says it's up there with the very best of the series. And then the mixed critical ones, the ones where people are like, they didn't like it nearly as much as everybody else. Kotaku said Leon's playtime ultimately dwarfs Grace by a pretty significant margin. So it seems like they wanted to play more Grace stuff. They liked more of the Resident Evil 7 stuff and less of the Resident Evil 4 stuff. That's what I got from that. And then there's another one that says it stumbles where certain mechanics fade out too quickly, or it doesn't perfectly blend, but it is a lot of fun. And then people are actually pretty impressed by the Switch 2 version, which targets 60 frames per second and works surprisingly well, but there are some visual compromises. I think I watched the review for Happy Console Gamer, and I watched the review for Skill Up. And I think Skill Up showed like some Switch footage. Man, it does not look good. Like, it looks pretty rough on the Switch too, but it is hitting a higher frame rate. So here's my question for you guys. Number one, what do you guys think about these reviews? Does this move the needle for you at all? Does this push you into the direction of picking it up if you weren't already? What do you guys think? Rich?
Yeah, I'd say so. So, I mean, like, I was pretty sold on Resident Evil 9, Resident Evil Requiem already. I've been bad about playing kind of the newest Resident Evil games, the newest mainline, right? So like the 7 and 8. I like the idea. I just have never made time for those. And this sort of meshing of the worlds, the Resident Evil 4 to 6 world, and then the Resident Evil 7 to 8 world, that attracts me. And all of the, what else? They've just been knocking it out the park too. It seems like they have had a pretty good cadence with Resident Evil games, whether they are mainline or remakes, and all of them review well. And so this is one where I definitely want to jump in. And unlike Death Stranding 2, I'm probably going to pick this up day one. I think I want to see it like with everyone else.
Today. Doesn't it come out today?
It comes out. So when we're recording this on Thursday, it comes out on Friday.
Oh, okay. Russ, what about you? Is this are you going to be picking up Resident Evil 9, or is it too scary for you?
Yeah, I'm a baby with this stuff, but I like the idea of going back to Leon. Like, that already gives me some comfort, and then I like the fact that they say, you're going to split your time, but that it's more favored towards more time with Leon, which sounds good to me too. I'd rather be the hunter than hunted. I haven't played anything since 5, so 6, 7, 8, didn't play any of those. So I feel like this is something I could jump into, but I'll just wait for a Capcom sale. You know what I mean? Like this is to me a $20 experience. I think it's $70 retail. That's a bit much for me, and I've got no urgency to play it. I still got to play the 4 remake. But yeah, I feel like if I am going to buy a Resident Evil game, it's going to be this one. In the future, because I don't own 6, 7, or 8 at all.
So okay. Russ, just knowing you, I would not recommend that you play 7. 7 is terrifying.
So 7 is the Cajun one, the Bayou one?
Yeah. And the reason why it's so scary is because it feels like it could be real, like you're kidnapped by this weirdo family and you're like, what is happening? It's so intense. And I actually did a live stream of it when I was playing it. And this was back before we rearranged my office up here, but my desk was over there. For the audio listeners, just imagine a room where a desk is. So my desk was over there behind me, and my wife was sitting where my current desk is, watching on the TV on the other side of me. And she had headphones on with a microphone, and she was telling me, "Oh, go over here, try this, try that." And I'm trying, I'm doing all that. And then there's this guy with a chainsaw comes out, or this lady with a chainsaw comes out. And at that point, my daughter, who was, I think she was 16 at the time, she walked in the room and she saw this lady come after me with a chainsaw, and she screamed, which scared my wife. And then my wife screamed, which scared the hell out of me. And then I screamed. It's a very intense game. So I wouldn't recommend that one for you.
Wait, was that recorded?
Yeah, it's somewhere on this channel. It's on my YouTube channel somewhere.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's a really good game. I'll try and find it, and I'll post a link down below if I remember, which I will not remember because I never remember to do that stuff. Rich, you would really enjoy 7, I think.
I think so.
It's super creepy. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, I need to, and this is one of those you can call it a bucket list thing, where I have these groups of games that I just want to run through. Resident Evil as a franchise is one of those. Immersive Sims as a genre is one of those. I have lists where it's okay, I just want to play through game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4. So yeah, the latter half of the Resident Evil series is up there for me.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you guys think. What do you think about these reviews? Does it make you want to pick up Resident Evil 9? Have you already pre-ordered it? Let us know in the comments section down below. And I want to talk a little bit about our next topic. Arc Raiders has been out for a few months at this point, but Marathon is right around the corner. In fact, right now is what's the stress test called? I can't remember.
Server Slam.
The Server Slam. Right now, Marathon is having the Server Slam. It is. It really is. And it basically, Arc Raiders has proven that the extraction shooter genre, as a genre, can go mainstream because that game is constantly on the top of the charts for Steam. I'm somebody who heard the term extraction shooter, heard it compared to Tarkov, and said, I'm not interested in that stuff at all. But then my barber told me multiple times how much he loves Arc Raiders. And so for 2 months in a row, because I go there once a month, and he would say, "Oh, have you picked up Arc Raiders yet?" 2 months in a row, he was saying how amazing it was and how he had so many awesome experiences as he was playing it. And so I was like, you know what? It's only $40. I'm going to pick it up and give it a shot. I'm now at 90 hours in the game. I'm having a blast. And most of the time I'm playing solo, but I'm playing mostly PvE. Very, very few times do I get killed by another player. Most of the time, it's me and other random people cooperating to take down giant robots. And when I say giant robots, I'm talking about the size of buildings. If you haven't played Arc Raiders, I highly recommend it. So I've been convinced that extraction shooters can be really, really good. But Arc Raiders kind of ate up a lot of the excitement around that genre. And people don't have time for multiple live service games. Like you usually pick one or two live service game that you're going to play. And when you pick that, it's usually from two different genres. You're not going to usually pick two extraction shooters to play on the regular. And so we were kind of talking about this today in our private Discord, and it made me think, okay, this is a fun topic to talk about, which is another reason I wish Kerry was on, because he was really driving that conversation. But here's the question that Kerry asked in Discord. He says, he basically said, did Arc Raiders kill Marathon before it even launched? So that's my question for you guys. Do you think that Arc Raiders has made it impossible for Marathon to succeed? What do you think about that, Russ?
So I feel like the cream will rise to the top between these, right? Like, so it's just, it may not have caused Marathon to have a failure, but may have actually given Marathon a player base, you know? And so I think that might be a potential. Is it really just going to be a competition between them? What I'm most worried about and concerned about and sad about is that Marathon killed Destiny 2. That's what I'm worried about, right? Is that all these resources are going to go towards the game that I like, the one that has a PvE element, as opposed to just PvP, which is all Marathon is. I'm never going to touch this game, even though I'm just, I want to play a Bungie game. I just don't want to play this game. You know, it's like giving you Halo 2 and it's only got a disc that's only multiplayer. I'm like, I want to play the story, you know? And so, that's kind of where I am with it. I don't think it's going to kill Arc Raider, or Arc Raider is going to kill Marathon. It's just going to be a competition, and may the best man win.
There is more of a, at least according to some impressions from Server Slam so far, there is a good amount of PvE. The encounters with other people, although they are always deadly, have been rare so far. So that's interesting. That said, I don't think you would like extraction shooters.
Yeah. No, I don't.
No, I tried. The Division is a extraction shooter, right? Like that's one of the first ones.
I actually don't know.
Well, so the Division, I haven't played the first one. The Division 2 it's just an MMO, but there's an area that you can go that's an extraction shooter.
Yeah, so I feel like that's the only game that's even close to this genre that I played before, and it was because all my Destiny buddies were like, "Oh no, we're moving over to this one." So I bought it at full price, and I was like, "This is so." Like a day into it, I'm like, "I'm not doing this. I'm going back to Destiny," and just wasted my $60. And so yeah, this isn't really my thing at all.
Yeah, yeah. And then your question, Bill, which, like you said, it was Carrie's question in the group chat. I think it's actually two questions, right? So before I answer, I'm going to ask a question back at you, Russ, and Bill. Can any extraction shooter top Arc Raiders? That's the first part of that question. And so, Russ, what do you think?
I have no idea, but I think that Arc Raiders is doing a good job because it's one of the most played games on Steam Deck, which says a lot to me in terms of optimization. The fact that it's just playable everywhere, you know, I think is a big deal.
That's a
Whereas
great
opposed
point.
with Marathon, all I'm hearing about is how beautiful the game is. And that's going to cost some resources to make it that beautiful. And so I think that a game like this that's going to rely on a big player base needs to be accessible. And I think that Arc Raiders, at least as far as I can tell, seems to have that leg up, at least in terms of just the resources required to play it.
Also, I will say this, when people are like, Arc Raiders is really well optimized, it's an Unreal 5 game. People are always saying how awful Unreal 5 is. It's an Unreal 5 game, and it runs just fine. It runs, in fact, really great. So, like, I play on my system, I play at 4K, usually 90. 4K 90.
Nice.
And no hitches, nothing. It just runs like an absolute dream. So it's optimized extremely well. But can any, like Rich's question, can any game top Marathon? I don't know, but I hope so. Like, I'm having so much fun with it. The thing is like, if you had asked me 6 months ago, do you want to play Marathon? It's an extraction shooter from Bungie. I would have said, well, I like Bungie's stuff a lot, but an extraction shooter is not for me. So no, not even a little. And now that I've played Arc Raiders and I've had so much fun with it, I've changed my mind. I am now interested in Marathon, whereas otherwise I wouldn't have been. So Go ahead.
which lends credence to what Russ was saying. Even if you ultimately decide it's not for you, Arc Raiders has probably opened up. It's probably blossomed the community.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like Halo paved the way for Call of Duty, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's a potential that Arc Raiders could do for Marathon.
Yeah, I would say, okay, so first off, when Carrie asked the question, my immediate reaction was, well, let's talk about this on the podcast. So I didn't answer. But my answer at that time was, no, it did not kill Marathon before it even launched, because it made me interested in a game that I was never interested in before. And it reminds me of when Orange Box, which was Valve's combo pack of Portal 2, Team Fortress 2, and Half-Life 2, all in one system, came to the Xbox 360. And prior to that, if you had said, Bill, you're going to play a first-person shooter using a joystick instead of a mouse and keyboard, I would have said, you're out of your mind. But then I played Orange Box and I got used to it, and I was like, oh, well, now I'm okay. I'm perfectly fine playing games on in fact, that's my preferred way to play games these days. So I think Arc Raiders has done Marathon a lot of favors by convincing the mainstream that this genre is something that can be fun.
Yeah, I think, going back to my first part of that question, can any extraction shooter top Arc Raiders? That depends entirely on where you think extraction shooters are in their arc, right? No pun intended. But have extraction shooters peaked? My personal opinion is no, right? Like, we could probably say battle royales have peaked, hero shooters have peaked, but I don't think extraction shooters have peaked. So I think there's room for a bigger extraction shooter than Arc Raiders. Is Marathon going to be that? That's where I like Russ's what you said is the cream will rise to the top, right? Like, it depends entirely on whether or not Marathon is a game that resonates with players. I actually don't think it has to be accessible, and impressions so far are that it's not nearly as accessible as Arc Raiders, and I don't think it has to be accessible. I think there are very difficult, complex games out there that are successful. Deadlock looks like it's going to be one. Dota obviously is one, and so those games exist. And Marathon can potentially be that too. For the podcast, I did do I looked at the numbers. So a few numbers here. Arc Raiders week 1 peak concurrent users was 354,000. The latest 24-hour peak is around 214,000. And then when you look at how many followers Arc Raiders had 10 days prior to release on the Steam page, it was 226,000, whereas Marathon has 74,000 or had at about 10 days prior to release. So already Marathon has a lot of catching up to do, even with pre-release compared to Arc Raiders. I think one more thing there was the Concord open beta, I think, was around 2,600 concurrent users, whereas this open beta Server Slam is already at, I want to say, 140,000. So this is orders of magnitude, or a couple orders of magnitude more successful than Concord, but right now it has an uphill climb when compared to Arc Raiders.
I think a lot of people lost interest in Marathon when they had all that controversy a while back. Like, there was the AI controversy where they were somebody, I'm not saying that Bungie was doing it, but somebody who worked at Bungie was stealing somebody else's art and just throwing it in the game. Right. And it was plastered all over the place. And I think that left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. And so they said, I'm out. And it also doesn't help that Destiny 2, sorry, Russ, but every time there's a new Destiny 2 expansion, everybody's like, what the hell? How can you screw it up this bad? People used to love Destiny 2, and now it's kind of become like a joke. And that's terrible, because Destiny 2 was a really, really good game, but Bungie kept doing things over and over that alienated their biggest fans.
No, I think it's fair. And I think that they were way overdue for a new IP, not a new IP, but a new game. You know what I mean? Like not just expansion packs. And so I was putting a lot of faith in Marathon kind of being that next step. And they probably are thinking about it like that. But unfortunately, it does leave me high and dry just as a guy who likes to play casually in a PvE environment with Halo style controls.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
One thing I want to close out on, it seems like we're closing out on this topic. One thing I want to point out is there are a lot of stories recently that really kind of highlight the importance of developing live service games in public. Meaning, if you're going to develop a live service game, you really have to have these public play tests and kind of have no sacred cows when it comes to your game, right? And so Deadlock, again, is an example of that. Deadlock has notoriously changed direction a ton. And this is with regard to them getting testers in and, they didn't like that art style. We're going to change that. They didn't like that XYZ. We're going to change that. So Deadlock has been very aggressive about testing and making changes, even before kind of the semi-open beta that we have today. Not the finals. Arc Raiders was another one that had public play tests. They already had goodwill coming from the finals, but there were some public play tests that gave good feedback. In contrast, Concord had none of that. They had one single open beta weekend, if I recall correctly. Highguard notoriously wanted to do a surprise launch. There's a post actually from Jason Schreier today on Bloomberg that reveals that they did not want to do public playtest because they wanted a surprise launch just like Apex Legends. They took their experience from Apex Legends and wanted to have that for Highguard. And so, yeah, I just think it's important to kind of develop in public. If you're going to release a games as a service game in 2026, you can't do it in a vacuum anymore.
I almost think that all these games need to be early access. And also just slapping early access on there is a huge, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word that I want to say, but it reminds me of when Gmail was in beta for 12 freaking years or whatever.
Yeah.
And like every time that there was a problem with Gmail, people would say, well, it's in beta. I mean, what the hell do you expect? So if a game like Highguard had launched in early access and it launched the way that it did, people would have said, well, it's in early access. Give them a chance to tweak things and learn from the audience that's playing it. I think that's a much better way to launch a gas game.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, let us know what you guys think. Are you planning on picking up Marathon? Have you already played in the server slam? Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. And we're going to move on. Let's talk about the games that we've been playing. We all played a bunch of demos this week, and Rich and I even played a couple of them together, or we tried to play a couple of them together. But before we get to those demos, Russ, you finished a game.
I did Halo Infinite. So I've been on a tear the past couple months of rebuilding my Xbox disc library, mostly because they're just so cheap on GameStop, and they've been having these buy two get one free kind of things going. So I just kind of wait. I have a wish list going. I'm like, all right, I would like, even though I have most of these games now on Steam, it's like I kind of want to just have this console with discs because I feel like this will be going away at some point. And so there was a point where it was a dumb move, but like in the Xbox 360, Xbox One era, I was like, all right, I like went through my library and I was like, okay, these games I own digitally, get rid of the discs, get $1 from GameStop or whatever, and I did that. And so I have a very small library of disc games. So I'm kind of building those back up. And one of those was Halo Infinite, even though it's on Game Pass. And I was like, okay, fine. It was only a few dollars on GameStop for the disc. And I'm planning on not having Game Pass soon, So I was like, okay, this is a good way to buy it, even though I have it on Steam. And then I was like, well, might as well just pop it in, and see how it is. And then I did that. And then I was like, well, might as well play a little bit of Mission. And then I spent almost a full day playing this, It was my birthday earlier this week, and I was like, you know what? Birthday is a game. Thank you. It's a birthday is a day to play video games, not to make videos about video games. And so I just played that and
like that.
Finished the campaign and gosh, I played on easy, and I'm not the worst FPS player. I'm not the best, but I kept dying. Like, I just kept getting my butt handed to me like so many times. Boss battles, it became a little rote. My son, my youngest, was sitting next to me, never seen me play a Halo game or even Destiny or anything. And he was just like, he had two comments, which I think were really interesting. The first was like, he's like, Dad, this game is really fun. Like, he just watched me, I'm just like pelting guys with grenades and using an energy sword and like just doing all those Halo things that just seem like it's like a stack of the skills that I've gained over the past 6 Halo games. But to him, it's just like, holy smokes, Dad is playing as Master Chief and he's just wrecking these guys, right? And he just was laughing at when the grunts would say stupid things, and he was just like, he was loving all those little bits. So that's my first observation, was just like, for somebody who's not exposed to Halo Infinite is like really fun just to watch all that stuff. And you have the grappling hook, right? So you can just grapple onto the enemies and they're like, ooh, and then you hit him, and he's just laughing every time. He's 10 and he was loving that. And then to the point where he was like, Dad, what game should I start with? Like he was asking if he should play, it was pretty cool. And the second was that it is hard. Like I was having to like memorize patterns and stuff. Like I was surprised at just the tier, even at the easy level, of how much I was dying and whatnot. It's got the same tropes that you would expect, where you got your last enemy and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, maybe that wasn't the last enemy. There's another enemy. And then it's like, oh wait, now the building is falling apart. I need to escape. Like that's just what happens in these like AAA big games, So all that stuff's there. But yeah, I really enjoyed the experience. And like I was mentioning earlier, like, holy smokes, like just not having to look at the settings and FPS and just playing a game on a big TV. Like it was just, I don't know, I've gotten out of console gaming so much, but I feel like I still am a console gamer. I've just been trying to make PCs become that console experience. And so it was just kind of a really exciting moment for me on the Xbox Series X, where I was just like, okay, now I get it. Now I get why people maybe not like me, but they didn't shift over to PC gaming. So I get all that.
Yeah, I also beat that game, Halo Infinite, and that was my second Halo game that I ever played. The first one that I played was the first one, but I didn't play it until Master Chief Collection came out. And that's when I played it, like about a year before Halo Infinite came out, because I wanted to play Halo Infinite. And I loved the campaign. I had so much fun in that game. It's a ridiculous shame how everybody treated Halo Infinite, because it deviated just a little bit from what people adored about it so much. And I get that they had sacred cows, and basically they deviated too much and it ticked a lot of people off. But as somebody who came to the series with fresh eyes, I had an absolute blast with it. And I feel like sometimes when you try to stay with the sacred cows, as you said earlier, Russ, when you try and stay with that for too long, it makes it almost a barrier to entry for new people to be willing to get into the series. So I like what they did, what 343 did with Halo Infinite, and I think it's just a shame that they didn't like that everybody raked him over the coals so much, because I thought that game was fantastic, both the single player and the multiplayer.
Yeah, I've never had an issue with 343. I always felt like they've done a great job. Honestly, Halo 4 is probably one of my favorites in the series. Like I've always loved that one, which was made by them. And the other observation before I move over to the games you guys have been playing is that every game in that, or every gun in that game sucks. Like there's no gun where I'm like, I can't believe I finally got the one I want. They all suck. Like I'm always just looking for a new gun, because I never felt like any of them actually like fulfilled what I wanted. And I don't know if that's on purpose, like the ability to just keep changing out guns, but I never found one that I was like, all right, this is my gun. Whereas with Destiny, like that's definitely a thing I feel, so that's my other observation, is that like, gosh, there's just no good, perfect gun in that game.
Rich, did you play Halo Infinite?
Yeah, I never finished it, but I enjoyed it. I only played the single player. I was one of those people who were like, oh, you guys probably should have had Forge and co-op and all that stuff. But the single player, like the open world, I was a fan. I was a fan of that. I think it worked out well. And I think they, all of the like battle encounters were still very engaging, very enjoyable. So I was fond of that.
Awesome. Let's talk about Rich and I both played a game. We tried to play. There's two games that are coming out. They both have demos, and they're incredibly similar games. Like if you ask one that you want ice cream, they both say yes. So when you look at this, there's Sprint City,
yep,
and then Speedrunners 2. Now, I want to talk about Speedrunners 2, but Rich, I want to hear you talk about Sprint City first, because I think you did try that.
I did. And I do think that Sprint City either is the same developers as the original Speedrunners or a subset of those folks.
Weird.
Yeah. So Speedrunners 2 is certainly published by Tiny Build, which was the same publisher as the original, but I don't know exactly what happened with the developers. And I want to say that at least some Speedrunners developers also worked on Sprint City. Anyway, Speedrunners, amazing. The original, like landmark almost indie game for Steam, right? When it came out, where this was just, it's like Mario Kart, but for platforming. And so Sprint City and Speedrunners 2 are both, one is a spiritual successor, the other one is a direct sequel. Sprint City, though, is going to launch in early access as opposed to Speedrunners 2, which is kind of launching into a full launch. And so Sprint City is rougher, I would say, considerably rougher than Speedrunners 2. So it didn't recognize my Legion Go S controller. We experienced no private lobbies. There are fewer graphics options. So it's really rough around the edges right now. Interestingly, it has more of like yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Well, it wasn't really, there were no private lobbies. There was no way for us to join the same lobby.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think it was just random. And so the interesting side to this is that it has more like single player focused content. And so if you like this genre, but you want to just do like time trials and have leaderboards, then this is something to look at. I would definitely check out the demo. The art is also a little like less polished, but I like the way the art looks in Sprint City. And so I really enjoyed the single player content for this demo, where it's basically just, finish this track as quickly as you can. And so I'm likely to pick up both of these on day one.
Really? You're going to pick up on both? Because they feel like that feels weird to me.
It does. It feels really weird. So I think I'm going to enjoy Sprint City even if I don't play multiplayer. And I think I like, based on our time with Speedrunners 2, I know I'm going to enjoy that in multiplayer.
So
yes,
outside looking in,
go ahead.
I was going to say, outside looking in, it looks like Guitar Hero versus Rock Band.
Yes,
is what I'm seeing right here.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I have both of those.
So Sprint City is off the, like, I can't play with my friends, so I'm not interested in that one. Speedrunners 2, however, so first off, just so everybody knows what these games are, you are doing like not precision platform. It's you are running as fast as you can and trying to go over platforming stuff, like a Mario game essentially, but you go in a loop around. So you'll go left across the screen, and then you'll like do wall climbs up, and then you'll go left to right across the screen, and then you'll come down, and then you'll do the same exact track that you just did. And as you go around, if anybody gets too far behind, they are then left out. Everybody has to stay on the same screen at the same time. And if you fall off the screen, because the screen follows whoever's in first place, if you fall off the screen, then you're out. And after a while, it will make the screen smaller, so you have less room to try and make sure that, like, because Rich and I were like, neck and neck for a really long time. And so it was like, okay, we got to get rid of some screen space to make it so that somebody will lose, because we were basically just doing the same moves each time. But then you also have power-ups where you can like shoot a grappling hook out, grab the other guy, pull him backwards, and it pulls you forward. So basically you can swap places with the person in front of you. You can freeze people. You can lay down bombs or drop crates for the people who are running behind you. It's really, really fast and frenetic. My one worry is that, number one, it's a lot like Speedrunners 1. It's like, it just looks like a fresh coat of paint on Speedrunners 1. If enough people don't buy it, you're going to have a hard time finding lobbies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even if people do, it doesn't seem like a game that's going to live a long time.
Right.
But maybe the demo helps change it. I think a fresh coat of paint could be enough for speedrunners if the genre warranted enough people buying it. I say that only because speedrunners came out so long ago, right? And so there are so many more people on Steam now that it's worth just saying, hey, this is still a good game. Here's a 2026, a modern release of that. You should consider picking that up. And here's a Next Fest demo to entice you. I will also say it's not just fun when you're winning. It's also fun when you're losing. Like, I was getting wrecked over and over again. I played again after I played with you, Bill. And there was this guy in the lobby who was just insane. And, even if I would get like a little bit of like, oh, I can catch up, that was enough to keep me engaged and just see like the shenanigans that he would pull. Cause that thing where you said you send a grappling hook out, he did a thing where like he dives as soon as it comes, and I guess your hitbox disappears. So like it didn't work. And I'm like, no. And I would be ruined. But it's just so much fun.
Yeah, it also has like that feeling. You know how in Mario Kart, when you're going around a corner and you nail the drift?
Yeah.
It has that feeling, especially like when let's say you're running right to left and then you drop down. But the best thing for you to do, because you immediately have to go, instead of right to left, left to right, is to grapple behind you so that your character changes direction fast enough. Every time you nail that, you feel like, I'm the greatest. I'm so good. And it's incredible to play it that way. All right, let's move on. And last week I talked about Titanium Court, which I liked a lot. Russ, you played it. What did you think about it?
I did play it. So you described it last week, and I was like, okay, like what I got out of that is that it's weird. Right. And then when I asked you guys, I was like, all right, what are games you recommend? And you were just like Titanium Court. And I was like, all right, fine. And so I installed it.
Hold on. Russ has never liked a game that I've recommended ever. Yeah. So I'm waiting to hear this.
Right. And so I'm like, I'm like, okay, we'll put Bill, like I like Bill as a person. So therefore I'll give this one another shot. It's kind of like what I was thinking.
That's funny.
So,
throwing me a bone.
Yeah. And so I actually really liked it. I played, I think, around 10 demos altogether, and this was number one, easy,
Amazing.
And so High Tech Low Life is putting together like a collection of Next Fest like picks or whatever, and he asked me to make one, and I was like, all right, I'm going to talk about this game. And so that's what I did. Now, what I kind of didn't understand from your description and what I wanted to kind of embellish on is that it is a match 3 game, but it's a match 3 game strategy game. So as you take, like for those who play like Puzzle Quest or whatever, when you take away a 3, like you match the 3, you get resources from that. You have 3 forest icons, you match those 3, you get wood, that kind of thing, right? And then you use that wood later on to buy soldiers for when because they have like high tide and low tide. High tide means you're just playing the game. Low tide means you're now battling what's on the board. And that can be bad castles, it could be catapults, all this kind of stuff. So you are kind of doing the both, where you're like, all right, I do need forest, but if I take these 3 forests, that castle is going to fall down and be closer to me, which means I didn't have to battle it. Whereas otherwise it may not get to me in time. So there's like an element to it too, there it's like strategy plus match 3. And the other aspect, so I like that gameplay aspect. It was enough for me to enjoy it, and I did get to the end of the demo where they're like, okay, you can't play anymore, like that's how much I played of it. And the other thing I really liked is the narrative, because it just drops you in, and you're just basically a person that you fall into this, they call it the fairy court, basically. And you become their queen or their royal person. And so there's all sorts of just weird things that are going on. Very quirky, very strange, very clever in its writing too. You know, like I'm like, oh, I like that sentence. You know, the way the guy wrote that. Mm-hmm. So there's a book that I read maybe 10 years ago called The Hike by Drew McGarry, I think is the name. And it's basically about this guy who goes on a hike and falls into this magical fairyland and it's like Narnia for adults, right? Where he's just trying to get out of there. And he becomes an adventurer and like a warrior and stuff. And it's a very, very touching book, but it's the same dry, witty, just offbeat kind of humor to it. And so I was like, this is like playing that book, is what it felt like. So I highly recommend that book. It's called The Hike, Drew McGarry, I believe is the name of the author. Weird thing is he fell down and like cracked his head, the author did. And he like had all sorts of issues and stuff. He's written one book, I think, since then, in an autobiography about what happened to him. But really strange story with this author where he just like fell down, cracked his head real bad. And anyway, wow. Really awesome book. And that's what it reminded me of. This game was just kind of this really surreal, odd kind of thing. I don't think it needed to be in this strange, like old school 80s graphics kind of thing, but just the fun of it, you know, and just like, you know, when a catapult shoots at you, it shows this catapult like shooting at you, and then the guy comes out and serves a tennis ball like a racket. Right. And you're like, why is that guy here? Right. And it's like,
or a home run.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like this acid trip dream sometimes, you know, and it's just kind of fun in that regard. So yeah, really enjoyed it. And obviously as a demo, it probably took me maybe an hour to get to the point where like you have to stop playing now. And I don't know. I'm interested to see what the but post demo content is going to be like. Like, was I that close to beating the game, or was I just like one level of many? You know, like that's what I'm kind of interested in, seeing how much content there is afterwards.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't love Titanium Core. By the way, I think the problem is me, right? Like I thought the writing was excellent, the art was excellent, and I really wanted to like it. I think it was just I don't love match 3 games, and I don't love auto battlers, so it had an uphill battle for me with regard to those things. But I'm so happy to hear you guys talk about it.
Sorry, I was muted. Tell us about Croak. I have not heard about this at all.
Okay, Croak is fun. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Splasher. It's a game, like a 2D platformer, I think by folks that made Rayman, or like some folks that made Rayman Origins. And so anyway, I like the art style and the format of Splasher, and Croak gives me that vibe. So the format is, yes, it's just a 2D platformer, right? But they have extra goals for each level. So if I recall correctly, oh, by the way, I say it's just a platformer, but the kind of mechanic here is you're a frog and you have this tongue grapple. So you can like reach out in front of you, attach to a wall, and bounce yourself to it. And you can even like hold that button and it will like pinball you up. So like if you're wall jumping, if you want to wall jump, you just grapple to the wall and hold the button, and it's just going to ping pong you all the way up the way. So that's just fun on its own. But those like 3 goals that you have in the game, one is collect the hidden coins. So there are 10 hidden coins in each level, kind of like, you know, those big Donkey Kong Country coins or the Yoshi coins in Super Mario World, right? So you find 10 of them. The second is you die as few times as possible. And the final one is you complete the level as fast as possible. So each of these 3 goals have like 3 medals. So you can, if you want, you can do gold in one of them or bronze in one of them, whatever you want. But of course I was chasing gold for all 3. And so like, I didn't even get past the first level because I'm like, no, I have to beat the time limit. And so I just love that format because it's one of those things that keeps me coming back to these games. Because like, yeah, just beating the level is enjoyable on its own, and it's pretty approachable. But then I want that extra challenge of like, oh, how do I make this? How do I perfect this level? So that's why I was enjoying that.
Nice.
Yeah, I tried this one too. I liked it. I was annoyed by the fact that when you use your tongue and you hit the wall, you can't stick to the wall.
Yeah.
It just drops. You know what I mean? And I was like, I wanted to have a grapple like Celeste where I can hold onto the wall. But then once I figured out the bounce mechanic, I was like, okay. But then I also felt like it was taking some of the control out of it for me, where I was just kind of randomly bouncing around and hoping I would hit the place I wanted to.
Yeah.
So that element was there for me. I looked up Splasher because you're like, oh, you guys ever heard of Splasher? I'm like, no, never heard of it. I look it up. It's in my library. So
I'm not surprised. It's one of those games where, like, yeah, you forget it exists, you forget you owned it, but also it came out during that like pivotal time in the Switch where like you were probably buying all of the Switch games. Do you have it on Switch or do you have it somewhere else?
No, it's on Steam. So I don't know if
Okay.
I got it as part of a bundle or if like maybe one of you guys convinced me at some point to get it. I don't know.
Yeah, bundle sounds very likely as well. Yeah.
I never heard of it, so I didn't convince you to get it.
You say that, but I own it in my library and I never heard of it either. So
That's
you never
fair.
know.
That's fair. I played Vampire Crawlers, and it is so Vampire Survivors. You guys, everybody knows that game. This is their first person dungeon crawler. And I got to say, this game, my first experience with it, I played it for about 10 minutes and I thought, this is really disappointing. But then the next day I came back and I played it for a lot longer and I started to see how the game works and I like it a whole lot. So it is a card game. Your cards are your attacks, basically. So, you can, you have all of the things that you would normally have in Vampire Survivors. You have like the whip or the daggers or the Bibles that fly around you or like the axe that you can throw. You get those as cards. And so then you go through this dungeon. You've got a little map that you can see on the bottom and your view is the first person. And then the monsters that you would normally see in Vampire Survivors, those are in front of you and you do your attacks and then they attack you, or if you kill them, then they disappear and a new wave moves forward in front of you. And then you just kind of go back and forth. And there's some strategy to like how you put the cards out. So one of the things you can do is if you put out the cards in increasing mana cost, you will get like a bonus to damage for doing that. But then you can also unlock things to make the cards more powerful. So you can get like an item that'll like double your damage if you want. And you say, okay, then if you get that, then you pick which card it's going to go on. And each card has like a gem slot almost that you can socket that into. So it really allows you to make a very customizable deck for when you go out into the world. And so basically the way the game works is you go out into the world, you do a dungeon, you come back to town, you spend your money that you have earned, and then you go out again a little more powerful than you were before. They nail the feel of the first person dungeon crawler. They bring back all of those elements that makes Vampire Survivors so really enjoyable. Like when the box comes on the screen and it's got like all of the, like, you guys, if you've played it, the bah, 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 like that feeling when you're playing that game. They really nailed that. And I played it. I didn't finish the demo, but I played it for long enough that I said, I don't want to play anymore. This is like last week when Russ says like, this demo is so good, I quit. Like, it's really good. So Vampire, I forget, Crawlers?
You got
Crawlers.
it.
Yeah, Vampire Crawlers is on my list. Did either of you guys get to try that one?
I was turned off by the card game aspect of it. But hearing you mention, like, just explain it, I'm like, all right, I'm down with that. And so I think I probably will try it. I was worried it was going to be like Slay the Spire style, and it's like a little too much thinking for me. But it sounds more like you're kind of barreling towards happy accidents, which is like what I like about those games. So I'll probably check it out.
There is some strategy to it. Like, you do have to think about,
Sure.
okay, if I use this first, then one of the things I was doing is I had a card that would allow me to draw another card and it would cost 1 mana. So I would use that first, and then it would allow me to draw another card. But then I had to keep an eye on my mana so that I could at least do some damage this round. But if you get the right cards, some of them cost 0, or a lot of them cost 0 mana. So you can like get as many cards as you can and then spam through those. In fact, there's a button that just says play all cards. So maybe that'll appeal to you too, Russ.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I get the strategy part, like Vampire Survivors has some strategy to it too, thinking about how you're going to level things up and in what order and stuff. I'm good with that. It's just a math. I don't want to math, Again, I'm just so averse to work while playing a game. I don't know what it is. I guess I just work so much. I don't want to do that in a game.
There's no math other than counting.
Okay,
just like 1, 2, 3. Rich, did you get a chance to try it or no?
No, I didn't. It's on my list. I do have a long list.
You have a big list.
But this is near the top of that list. I also didn't, speaking of dungeon crawlers, didn't get to try Dungeons of Dusk yet, which is the Dusk-based dungeon crawler. So that's high on my list as well.
So I tried to play that, and like you ran into where your controller was not recognized.
Yeah.
My controller was not recognized by Dungeons of Dusk. I could not figure out why. Like it said on the screen, press Y, and I'm pressing Y. And I even got up and like grabbed my mouse because I played, I was playing on my TV over there. I grabbed the mouse that I have and I was like, click, click, click to try and make sure that was like the focus, you know what I mean? Like maybe I was pressing a button and it was like some other window. Nope, I could not get it to work. So I wanted to try that one, but I couldn't play it.
That's unfortunate. But yeah, was it, you have your living room PC, right? That's what you were using?
Yeah, I was playing on my living room PC. Yep, I should have probably grabbed a handheld and tried it that way, but I was just
I'm just seeing now it's Steam Deck verified, so that's nice. So at least for those on the handhelds, it should work. But yeah, I haven't tried it yet.
Oh, a quick callback to our marathon discussion. It's not going to work on Linux.
I know.
Just so everybody knows. That's really disappointing because of Bungie's nonsense.
What a bummer.
Yeah.
Huge bummer.
All right. So, Russ, Grind Survivors. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, so it feels like a mixture between Vampire Survivors, very similar mechanics, you're walking around, auto fire stuff, picking it's 4 options when you get enough coins for your XP or whatever. So very much so like that, but a mixture of that and then like I keep wanting like with Robotron and maybe potentially Smash TV. Like it kind of has that feel because it's gun based. So you're just upgrading your guns while shooting these guys, and you can either use twin sticks or just auto fire and use 1 stick. It's up to you, and you can do it mid game. You're like, you know what? I want to focus on, like, say there's a big boss coming at you and auto fire is just going to shoot at the thing that's closest, right? And maybe it's not that boss. You're like, no, bullets go this way. And so you can make it go that way if you need to, right? And so it's a really kind of cool mechanic, kind of dark, kind of gory, Diablo looking almost, it's like Vampire Survivors plus Diablo, still somewhat like light graphics, but still better than Vampire Survivors. It's not pixely, I would say. So real fun, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you're playing through, and all those same mechanics. But I personally, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like kind of burnt out with the Survivors likes. Like I haven't played Vampire Survivors in forever, This was like, all right, I'm back in, Part of that might just be that it's a demo, and so I'm like, okay, well, I only have to give this 20 minutes. I don't have to put in 40 hours. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed that. And so that ended up being my number 2 of the like 10 games that I demoed out.
Very cool. Are you going to make a video about your 10 demos that you played?
No, I picked the top 2 from that, and then that's what I sent over to High Tech Low Life. So maybe we'll link to that at some point when that video comes out. I'm not sure who's working on it or anything. It used to be part of, you guys remember? Yeah, I should do that. You guys remember like Steam Pals, right? We participated in that. I think it's like a throwback to that. I'm not really sure anymore what's going on.
Yep. Yeah, he asked me, and I was just like, I'm too busy with my house right now because we're trying to sell the house. So I was like, ask me again next Steam Next Fest. Rich, you've been playing New York Times games.
Yeah, I've actually been playing this for a long time. But it came up before the podcast when, before we were recording. So I thought we'd just bring it here. So recently, today or yesterday, they announced or debuted a new crossword. It's called the MIDI. And so, like, if you don't know, obviously New York Times games, they have crosswords, but they also have a daily mini crossword. The mini crossword is like 5 by 5, and you can finish it, in as little as 30 seconds or up to like 5 minutes, depending on how long it takes you. The MIDI is somewhere between the mini and the full crossword. So I'm enjoying the MIDI. The mini was a nice way to get me used to like filling in a crossword, because when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. But now I'm getting there. And so like the MIDI is the nice step up. I've also started doing Monday crosswords. Also, if you don't know, crosswords follow a difficulty curve. Monday is the easiest. Sunday is the hardest. I dare not open a Sunday crossword, but I am willing to open a Monday crossword.
I try those games and I get stuck on one word and my brain won't let me move on from that one word, even though if I finished the rest of them, like I would probably figure out that word.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of get stuck there and I get frustrated and then I close it. So what happens, because I'll only do the mini. Every once in a while, I'll open up like the big one and I'll be like, I'll try a couple of them and I'll be like, I'll get a few words in and then I'll get distracted and I just never come back to it. But the minis are so small, you can do them like in one sitting. Yeah. If I can finish it in 30 seconds or a minute, awesome. If it takes me longer than that, I'm out.
That's funny. And then, we were also talking about the other games on there, which are arguably the bigger attraction, right? Obviously, the big breakout one was Wordle when it first came out. But then more recently, the breakout hit has been Connections where you have a 4x4 grid of words or phrases or occasionally iconography, and you have to group them into groups of 4 based on the author's really specific usually thought process. So and those have like an order where yellow is the easiest category, green is the next easiest, blue after that, and then finally purple. And so we were also talking about like, some folks will, like myself, I will look at it and hopefully until I get all the connections, and then I'll enter them in reverse order. So I try to get, enter in the hardest one first and then go down.
That's crazy to me. I like when I do the connections, which is not very often, I will do them like, I figured out 4 that go together. I just select those. And I didn't even know that they were difficulty levels. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So my wife plays it every day. I kind of going back to the Vinylmation thing, like I can't put addictive things in the things that I touch because then I'm going to just do that. I had to take off, what was that game called? Marvel something or other.
Snap.
The phone game, Marvel Snap. Oh man, that one was rough on me. Anyway, I wasn't getting off the toilet with that game. So like I've got to I got to temper those. And that's the New York Times games was that for me. I tried it a little bit. I was doing Wordle and Connections and it was just, I spent too much time thinking about it, and so now I'm like the audible for my wife. Like, so she plays it and she's just like, throws the phone at me. She's like, what is this? And I just like, boop, the 4 connections. It's like I have this moment of clarity because I'm not invested in it. And I can just be like, those 4 right there. You know what I mean? And she's just like, you're brilliant. For 2 seconds, she thinks that. You know what I mean? It's like my favorite part of the day. And so, I do a little bit of Connections, but it's through my wife, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you were playing that same puzzle and if you were playing it, you'd be like, I can't figure this out.
Right. I'm such an idiot. Right.
It's like when you watch somebody stream, like if you watch somebody play a video game on stream and you're like, there's that guy right there, shoot that guy or do this thing. It's like exactly. You have all of this information that you think, why aren't they doing any of this? But then when you're playing, you're like, you can't figure anything out. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's life.
Interesting point on like the addiction piece. Part of why I really got back into it, I would say, is just like I was not enjoying my time on like the other ways I was using my phone, right? Whether that was Twitter or Reddit or whatever. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to uninstall these. And I did. And then, but you would get bored, right? And so like, I was like, maybe I'll just fire this back up. And that's what I've been doing since then. I will say unlike say Marvel Snap, which is probably something you could do like all day theoretically, one of the maybe nice things perhaps is that like something like Connections is finite, right? Like there's one per day.
Yeah.
It takes you some amount of time and then you're done. That's it. So I do enjoy that.
Yeah. I'm also bad with the streaks thing. Like I don't like being told that I have a streak going.
Yeah,
like
I
that makes
can
me
imagine.
mad too.
Yeah.
And so like Duolingo is like my one where it's like I was doing that, when I was in the service, I was like, all right, I'll do a little Russian every day just to kind of keep things going, and I had a streak of over, I don't know, 1,000 or something like that. And then I was doing a work trip in Korea and I like went over the date line and I messed it all up and I lost my streak. Basically.
That sounds terrible.
And I was so mad and I was like, uninstall, and I never played it again. So, yeah.
If you're looking, Rich, for something to fill your time with on your phone that's not word related or anything, Coffee Golf. I recommended it probably sometime in the first year of this podcast. Yeah, it's really fun. It's a fun little game where they get like, oh, here's today's golf course, and you just you flick the golf ball to get it in there.
Yeah, I remember this. I did it. You recommended it and I ended up playing it. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I like that one. Now that you mention it, Clues by Sam is another one of these that I do. Cluesbysam.com. It follows the crossword difficulty curve where Monday's the easiest, Sunday's the hardest. So do not try it until Monday. I recommend. But it's like a weird, imagine like Guess Who, the board game, right? But it's like a 4x5 grid and there are folks all over the grid, and you're trying to find out who's a criminal and who's innocent. And it's,
I've seen this.
Yeah, and like the all of the characters will give you a hint, and those hints are not lies; they can only be truthful. But you have to like put the logic together to be like, oh, I guess that means that this person's a criminal and this person's innocent. So that game is really fun too. But yeah, it can be addicting in that way. And also on a Sunday, I've had it take 30 minutes of my time. I'm like, oh, what, why did I do that for 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
I think coffee golf is more my speed.
Yeah.
I was going to say between them. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you're looking for something to do on Sunday, you could just listen to this podcast, which usually comes out on Sundays, and you just did for 2 hours. So thank you so much for hanging out with us for the 2 hours. Before we go anywhere, I want to find out what these guys are up to. Rich is still on hiatus, but he's playing so many demos. I can't wait to hear him talk more about those. Rich, I almost feel like you should start a newsletter like Russ did, because you constantly have so many things to talk about.
Yeah, I've thought about that with like regard to games specifically, like like game recommendations are things that like videos don't necessarily do well. So maybe that's something that like a newsletter might be better for. So yeah, maybe Russ, I'll talk to you about that and see how your experience has been so far.
Yeah, I've been doing that every week. I do one retro game, one modern game, and then like an album or a book or whatever. And it's mostly been what I've been playing, but I also like purposefully play a game so I can talk about it in the newsletter. It's been like this cool cycle for me where I'm like getting more into games and also having fun talking about it. Just a paragraph per game, but that's enough to really convey the fun of those games. And so there's so many fun ways to do it. Yeah, you could totally do that.
Nice.
Now, how can people sign up for your newsletter, Russ?
It's you can go to my website, retrogamecore.com, and then there's a little link right there, or you can just go to news.retrogamecore.com and it'll take you right there. And so, yeah, it's weekly, comes out every Sunday, and I'm, it's about 1,500 words. So it's not a lot. It takes maybe 5 minutes to read through the whole thing. But it has a recap of all my videos and then like news that I've been seeing, some deals that I found, and then what I've been playing and some behind the scenes pictures.
Very cool. And you can also check out his stuff over at youtube.com/retrogamecore. And if Rich decides to make more videos, you would find those over at youtube.com/fanthedeck. I am, of course, Bill Fairchild, your host here at the Nerd Nest. Thank you guys for watching and hanging out with us for the last 2 hours. You could have been anywhere, but you decided to hang out with us. Now go play some coffee golf or some vampire whatever, or what was the New York Times thing that Rich was talking about. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.